right, it's time for the triumphant return of Danny Bonaduce, life coach, with special guest Rick Jones, which is brought to you by Goldberg Jones Divorce for Men. Call 1-800-DIVORCE. Or here's their new thing, it's about time you caught up there. You can go online to goldbergjones.com and save yourself the phone call. Hey, man, how are you?
I'm doing pretty great. How about you?
Doing very well. Thank you. What did you bring Sarah today?
Well, it was a Monster can, but the big key is it's a New England Patriot themed Rob Gronkowski Monster Energy drink.
So awesome.
She will lose her mind.
I wish I could see that.
Yeah, you can't do that to the show, man. So what happens, I'm going to drink it, and then I'll give you the can back. All right, so, I talked all the way through the guy with the child custody question.
Bruce, call back, buddy.
Bruce, thank you. Yeah, call back right now. We'll start with...
We'll start with Jeannie, but you guys out there, if you have a question about anything involving divorce, Rick Jones is here doling out free legal advice. You can call him right now at 800-252-1025. If you've got a question about child custody or the divorce, anything of that nature, call right now. Jeannie in Seattle, you are on with Rick Jones.
Hey, Jeannie.
Yeah, good morning.
Morning.
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you?
Very well. Thank you for asking.
Good. Hey, I have a real quick question. I have 3 kids that are in college, and I want to get a divorce, but I need to find out about a parenting plan.
Yeah, you do.
Do you still need one with college-age kids?
How old is the youngest?
The youngest is 21.
Okay. No, you don't need a parenting plan. Your children certainly will always be your children, no matter what age they are. But for the law, they're no longer children. They're in their majority. So once they achieved 18 years old and there was nothing previously filed, the court now doesn't have any authority to extend into their majority.
No, I always thought that was kind of weird that a kid 16, 15 couldn't pick. No, I want to stay with dad. I like dad best, but there's usually a reason, and you have to explain to a judge who's going where and what, but not this case because they're 20.
Yeah.
Right, cool.
What's also interesting, she was asking more about the parenting plan, but I guess a side issue that I thought she was going to go is, am I able to get child support or post-secondary educational support? What's interesting about that is, let's say that you've got 17, 16, and 15-year-olds.
Right.
So this was all done 5 years ago. If a divorce is initiated at that point, the court still has authority not only to order the finishing of child support, but also is able to order into an extension of post-secondary educational support.
I get that.
So in other words, college education could be provided under that.
So hurry up and get a divorce while the kids are young.
Yeah, you want to hurry this up. There's no reason
People say they're staying together for the kids. That's a bad move,
wrong.
according to Rick Jones.
Paul, you're on the payroll.
A lot of people out there are contemplating divorce. If you've got a question about that, this is the time to call 800-252-1025 because Rick Jones of Goldberg Jones is in studio answering all of your questions. Bob in Tacoma, you're the next caller.
Hi, Bob.
Hey, guys, how's it going?
It's going very well, thank you. Thanks for calling. What can we do for you?
Well, along the same lines, I'm not married. I have a 3.5-year-old, and if I get separated, do I need a parenting plan?
Yes.
You are married or you are not married?
Not married. He's not married. We've got a 3-year-old, and I looked at Rick Jones's face. That's kind of an exclamation point on, yeah, you need a parenting plan, right?
Correct. You can see that?
Yeah, you get very animated sometimes, Rick.
Wow. No, absolutely. I mean, the good news is you've already probably signed a paternity affidavit at the hospital, so the issue isn't that you have to prove that you're the father, but once you separate, there is nothing put in place, no schedule put in place. So there's already a presumption that the child is remaining with the mother. So what you need to do, even by agreement, is to initiate a parenting plan that just says, hey, just like 2 divorcing people, we have to have a rule book in place.
Right, but it'll be essentially the same thing now. Is it weighted for or against somebody who's not married, or is it the exact same thing? If you got a 3-year-old, you got a 3-year-old.
The exact same thing.
All right, you need a parenting plan, buddy.
Is it a different court that handles, because it's not a divorce, because you're not married?
Yeah, there's really no such thing as divorce court. It's all handled in the Superior Court, which is county-based here in Washington.
But if somebody just says, okay, I want to break up, grabs the 3-year-old, moves to Wyoming, they can't do that. That's when a lawyer will get involved for sure.
Yeah, well, they can try to do that. And then, of course, what would happen is somebody here in Washington would get the case filed immediately, and I wouldn't want to be the person that tried to hightail it to Wyoming because all of a sudden their credibility is shot.
Thank you.
Steve in Redmond is going to be the next caller on with Rick Jones of Goldberg Jones, 1-800-DIVORCE.
Morning, Steve.
Good morning.
What's up, buddy?
So my question is this. So I have full custody of my daughter, and I am back with her mom now. If we get married and it didn't work out, do I have to go fight custody again, or will my custody order still stand?
Well, that's a great question. Because I always think I know when I'm just wrong. I don't even think I know.
Yeah. Well, it's the linchpin there is whether or not you get remarried. Why would you do that? I guess I know that's not a legal question.
What's wrong with you, man?
But right now you've got something that defines the rights as between the two of you that was associated with the divorce.
So, I think that's a valid question. Why not just live together? What's
Absolutely.
the difference? I think so. And I don't know what I'm talking about here, but I've never met a man that had full custody where the woman didn't do something pretty nasty to give that away.
And now he wants to remarry her.
Because the court wants that to go with the natural mother. That's what they seem to be, unless somebody puts up a big fight. So I think something went wrong there, Steve.
So if Steve does remarry this woman, he will then have to go through another custody battle if they divorce.
Well, what would happen is if they divorce, certainly the parenting plan is up for issue again. I don't think I've ever encountered this in practice,
right.
Believe it or not. But the issue would be open for discussion again.
Yeah, man, don't do it, Steve.
Yeah, it gives her an inroad that she doesn't have right now.
Yeah.
Plan.
So just live together in marital bliss until it all goes to hell again.
You still have time to get through to Rick Jones, 800-252-1025. Rick Jones of Goldberg Jones talking divorce and child custody with you this morning. How about Bob and Bothell? You're the next caller.
Hiya, Bob.
Hey, what's going on, Danny?
Well, it's all good. Got Rick Jones here. You got a question?
Yeah, hey, Rick. I'm divorced. I've got 50-50 custody with my ex. My son is actually at my house more than he's at his mom's house, and I pay child support. So my question is, my son's down in California for the summer. His mom didn't give him any money to be down there with my parents. Do I still have to give her child support while he's gone?
This is a really good question, but I don't think you're going to be thrilled with the answer. What happens?
Yeah, you're stuck with that support order. And ultimately, there's very little enforcement, if you will, on what the other parent is required to do in the way of support. The fact that you have a support obligation tells me that there must have been an income differential between the two of you. Because if there wasn't, then a 50-50 parenting plan would basically cancel out based on residential credit, the child support. Am I right on that, Bob?
You are correct.
Yeah, but he has a tendency to do that, this Rick Jones character. That was kind of the first thing I learned from him, though, when we first started doing this and Rick Jones started giving out advice, was because I thought if my son's coming up here for the summers or even longer, don't I get to stop paying child support? It's really expensive for 3 months. No, you don't. You'll get in all sorts of trouble. So at least I know that now.
All right, Bob, hopefully that was helpful to you. And we are still taking calls about divorce. Rick Jones in studio, 800-252-1025. Jason and Everett's the next caller.
Hey, Jason.
Hey, how's it going?
It's all good. You got a question for Rick Jones?
Yes. I was just wondering, in Washington State, how long you have to be married? I've been married for 7 years, and if I can see it's not working out, how long do I have to be married before the wife qualifies for, I think in another year I'll be vested in my company, so I don't have retirement yet. But so both Social Security and retirement, how long do you have to be married to where they qualify for that?
Sure. Well, let me speak to the retirement issue. Unfortunately, it's not a bright line that I can just tell you of X many years. What happens is when you get married, you form what's called a community. And think about that like going into business with your now new wife. Ultimately, when you're creating a pension or a retirement, it's either based on the number of years and the income you were making during that period of time, or, which is kind of an older school pension, or it's going to be like a 401k where you can actually see the dollars go in and accumulate. What happens, though, is this. If you get married, let's say you've already started accumulating a pension, what you've earned prior to getting married is considered your separate property. Then let's say you're married for 10 years, divorce, you now have created 10 years of community property in that pot, if you will, and now you've been divorced for another 10 years before you actually start collecting on your pension. Ultimately, there's a formula that gets created back in the court when you get divorced that creates the percentage of the community property that she's entitled to.
Including Social Security.
Well, Social Security is going to be a little bit different. I'm actually not extremely well versed on that.
Then how about pensions? I've been paying into my pension since 1967. So would that be mostly mine or a person in my shoes?
Yeah, let's say you've been paying into a pension for what? Is that really 50 years?
Yeah, when I first did Bewitched.
You don't look a day over 30.
Thank you, dear.
So if you've been paying in for a pension for 50 years, and let's say that when you divorced, how long were you married, by the way?
Well, she didn't get my pension.
No, I know. Let's just use this for example.
But that's the better one because I don't like her. I like my wife now.
Yeah.
I was married 17 years.
Okay. So let's say that's 17 years of it. Let's call 51 because it's going to work out to be pretty good.
Okay.
So 17 years of a 51-year pension contribution is 1/3.
So that's what she would get if she went after it.
No, that means the community portion was 1/3. Your separate portion was 2/3. She gets half. So she gets half of the 1/3.
All right. Well, she did.
All right.
The nicest thing about that girl, she didn't go after it.
Math is fun.
Yeah, it is. Matt is our friend.
Mark and Olympia, you're the next caller on with Rick Jones of Goldberg Jones, Divorce for Men.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, how you doing?
Very well. You got a question for Rick Jones of Goldberg Jones?
Yeah, I'll try to make this really quick. So 3 years ago, got a divorce, went through the custody battle in Nevada. She won. I had a job up here, so I moved up here. Well, a year ago, she had a falling out with her new partner, and she moved the children up here with me, and then she followed them like 6 months later. So now we live 2 miles apart. We share the kids 50-50, but nothing's on paper, and I'm sure we're trying to figure out like what we need to do to move jurisdiction up here. We don't want to go back to court. We just want to move jurisdiction up here and get everything like the new parenting plan up here in Washington, because Nevada has jurisdiction of our case.
I love it when I can say this. Easy peasy.
Wow. Yeah, all right.
Yeah. I mean, especially with the two of you in agreement right now. Basically, what you do is, in theory, you could have taken the Nevada order and done what's called registering it here in the county in Washington, which all of a sudden now gives Washington jurisdiction. In this particular circumstance, you don't really want to be entering that old parenting plan. So you basically go to Washington and say, I'm doing a parenting plan modification. So you present this 50-50 plan, presumably, with the courts. You guys have already signed off on it. They're certainly going to bless it. And you now have an ongoing Washington parenting plan.
Easy peasy, Mark.
Dave and Everett, you're the next caller with Rick Jones of Goldberg Jones, 1-800-DIVORCE.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you.
You're welcome. That was nice.
Rick, the question I have for you is I was married for 34 years, got divorced in 14, went through mediation, and my lawyer, who I absolutely hated, but that's how that goes. Maybe I'll like you better, I don't know.
Maybe not.
The ending result was that I'll pay spousal maintenance for 5 years of about $2,200 a month.
Yeah.
And also there was a award for her for half of the house for, who knows, 50 grand, whatever it was. Anyhow, and in hindsight, by the way, I found out that he didn't do my first two separation correctly, so now she's getting 50% instead of half at the time of separation, which I'd really like to get corrected, but I don't know how to do that. Anyhow, on the award, I wish he would have offered to do 6 years.
Oh, I think we just lost.
That way it'd be tax deductible. Is there any way I could get her to voluntarily change that to be an additional spousal maintenance and drop the award?
You know, most likely the answer is, this is a tough one because there is the ability to try and go back and revise the decree, which is think of what you think of when you think of final orders when it comes to the finances. Right. Unfortunately, the reason why this is a good idea to him is the reason why the court may be leery of it, meaning it's purposefully a play trying to bilk Uncle Sam out of a percentage that they would have otherwise gotten.
I didn't even get that.
So it's one of those that might be looked at a little bit more jadedly because it's done after the fact. It's like, oh, okay, you wisened up.
Right.
As opposed to two good attorneys on the other side would have been talking about that beforehand because obviously there could have been a little bit more of a win-win than he got.
I think there was a reason you hated your attorney.
There was one other point he made, though, and that was regarding his PERS pension. And if it was just... if it was written incorrectly, so if you can compare the final orders to what's called the quadro, which is the document that divides the pension, and if there was a mistake in there, then yes, there's the ability to go back and correct a mistake. Now, if it's just that it wasn't written very well in the final orders and the quadro matched the final orders, then there's not the ability to go back.
Wow.
All right, we've got time for a couple more quick calls here. Let's go with Ray in Federal Way.
Hi, Ray.
Hi. I'm calling to ask if this is a state where it's a common law state.
No.
No, but that's not because we're not a common law state. It's just because we don't recognize any kind of common law union, right?
You know, I don't know if common law is recognized anywhere anymore. I remember when I started practicing, there was Hawaii and maybe a Louisiana.
And it was 7 years. And 7 years in the eyes of the state, you're now legally married.
Right.
That's not the case anymore. So the answer to this question is no, and he's not legally married in the state of Washington.
Yeah, but because of the listeners out here, I want to give a little bit more information, which is even though you're not married, you never become married if you don't go through an actual marriage. You still are potentially subjected to what's called a meretricious relationship analysis. So let's say you're just, you don't want to get married, but you do move in together. Maybe you even have a child together. You combine your finances, you split rents, things like that. Well, all of a sudden, 10 years down the road, you break up. You might be surprised that there might be inroads to call this a marriage-like or meretricious relationship and be able to divide up assets and liabilities that way that you didn't intend.
So there's no common law marriage, but there is, in fact, a common law that applies to people who accrue.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair assessment.
Wow.
Jerry in Olympia, you're on with Rick Jones.
Hello?
Hey, Jerry.
Hey, I'm just trying to figure out. I talked to my ex before. Is there a way we can get her to drop child support through the state and I'm able to pay her without having the state involved?
Is she willing to agree to that?
Yes.
Yeah. Basically, you just do a revised support order because in your support order, it talks about the method of collection. And right now, it authorizes the state to be involved in it. It happens extremely frequently, especially with cases we do, because it's not, sometimes it's just, a little bit degrading, feeling like you're being collected upon. So, yeah, you can do a revised support order that says the method of payment is by check directly or automatic deposit directly to your ex.
Not to curse anything. That was me knocking on wood. Seems like you've given out more good news than usual today. Like, hey man, you're in the right seat right now.
Yeah, I wonder if it's the calls or just me today.
Well, you've got one more chance to ruin somebody's day. It's Ryan in Puyallup.
Hey Ryan, what's up, buddy?
Hello. This is Ryan. How are you guys this morning?
We're very well. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, quick question for Rick. I have never had a parenting plan, and I have a 7-year-old daughter. The ex and I, we've been able to be cordial enough but to work things out. But she is recently getting married here this weekend to her fiance, and they're relocating to Arizona. And I was just kind of wondering what my options are as far as a parenting plan and what is going on with child support.
Yeah.
Child support officers haven't returned my calls.
Well, what's been
kind of what my rights are?
Let's start with the child support. What's been going on with child support already?
I've been paying $750 a month.
Okay.
For my daughter.
Through the state or just to her by agreement?
Through the state.
Okay. Well, I don't expect anything to change on that. Any sort of relocation really isn't going to affect that unless you're addressing child support in a much different
So she's
manner.
marrying another guy with a job, and the kid's going to live with that guy, and it doesn't lower his payments?
It's not his kid.
Wow. Yes. It's his house. Oh, I'm getting mad. All right, whatever. Get back to Rick Jones.
I told you you're going to ruin his day.
But so that's the child support issue. On the parenting plan, especially if you're concerned about her being reasonable in a long-distance parenting plan, or let's say you want to fight the relocation entirely, then what you really need to do is get something filed now. And the reason for that is it vests jurisdiction here in Washington before she goes. What you don't want to just say is, hey, we'll work it out. By the time we get around to next summer, guess what? Jurisdiction is in Nevada, did he say?
Yeah.
So in other words, it's somewhere else, and all of a sudden the battle becomes not in your backyard. Mm-hmm. So I think it's very important for you to get something on the books here in Washington. And for everybody out there that says, hey, we're getting along, I didn't need a parenting plan, you never need a parenting plan until you need it.
Until you need it. I try and stay back with personal experience because I thought I was doing that too much. But my ex-wife and I started off, let's just do this. It's great. You worked hard. You deserve this. I deserve that. And literally within 90 days, it was disaster. And everybody going, can I have him killed? Is that part of the settlement I can get? So we're always, just always get a lawyer. And that's not just because Rick is here. I'm just telling you, I've seen it go bad too many times.
Well, Ryan, you can call Rick Jones in the office if you need to get some more advice and get that call going at 1-800-DIVORCE. That will wrap up this special edition of Life Coach with Rick Jones of Goldberg Jones Divorce for Men. The website, goldbergjones.com. Rick, thank you so much.
Thanks, Rick.
You're welcome.